Hello everyone. Today in this video I will tell you the seizure disorder. In first video of the seizure disorder I have already tells you the details of definition, epidemiology, ETO and types and the details of febrile seizure. Today I am going to tell you the condition which mimics the seizure and the investigations which you have to plan whenever you are suspecting that child is having the seizure disorder. And the treatment of the epileptic seizures I will discuss in the third video of this seizure disorder series. So what are the conditions which mimic the seizure, or we can say non-epileptic event? There is a long list of all these conditions, but these 10 conditions are little bit common and important whenever you are doing the OPD practice and you are handling the child with the seizure disorder. So the breath holding spells, infantile tremor syndrome, shuddering attack, night terror, pseudo seizures, syncope, migraine, jitteriness, tics, and benign paroxysmal vertigo of childhood. All these conditions are bit common. Whenever you are suspecting that child is having the seizure disorder, first you have to rule out all these conditions. So always make the habit to take the proper history to roll out all these conditions which are not epileptic. So before starting the management of seizure disorder. Now I am going to tell you the details of all these conditions which mimic the seizures. So first and most important condition is breath holding spells. On this condition you generally get the short note also, and sometime MCQ also ask on all these conditions. So breath holding spells are of two types, cyanotic BHS and pallid BHS. In this picture you can see that whenever a child is having anger, frustration or injury or any painful stimuli, these episodes can occur. So what is the sequence in cyanotic breath holding spell? First, there will be an inciting event, painful or violent stimuli, and it will lead to the prolonged crying. And whenever a child is having prolonged crying, there will be breath holding and prolonged expiratory apnea will be occur. And it will lead to the cyanosis, and it is still prolonged. Then it can lead to the anoxic conversion and syncope may occur in more severe episodes. So always take the proper history for the seizure disorder. If you take the history in detail, you can rule out the breath holding spell. Seizure disorder does not have this sequence. So whenever parents are complaining that child is having the conversion, ask about any painful stimuli or any injury occur, and it's followed by the crying, and after that the sequence is followed, then you have to suspect the breath holding spells. Now what is the common age group for the breath holding spell? This is generally seen between the 6 to 18 months of the age, and it disappears spontaneously before the school age. So it is common between 6 months to 5 years of age. So whenever you find the infant or child in less than 5 years age group having the conversion, always take the proper history and counsel the parents about this condition. In this picture you can see the child is having the central cyanosis. Now what occurs in the pallid attack? In this, the sudden and unexpected stimuli is present and baby gasp and become apneic and pale and unresponsive. In cyanotic attack, baby becomes cyanosed, while in the pallid attack, baby becomes apneic and pale. That's why it's mentioned as a pallid attack. It is rare than cyanotic attack, and it will lead to the vagal reflex in which the cardiac bradycardia and asystole occur, and anoxic seizures can occur in the pallid attacks. So all these sequence will be occur in the pallid attack. Now how will you investigate? Then always screen for the anemia. If you have labeled that the child is suffering from the breath holding spell, always screen for the anemia. Because if the child is having the iron deficiency anemia, then the repeated episodes of the breath holding spells will occur. So always we have to treat the anemia. Keep the hemoglobin at 12 gram per gl. And sometime uh, long QT syndromes child. child who is suffering from the long QT syndrome also having the breath holding spells. So if you are suspecting uh, child is not having anemia, any other significant history part, then you can go for the electrocardiography for the electrical cardiac disturbance, because it is a presenting sign of long QT syndrome. It is a rare thing. Now, how will you treat the breath holding spells? First thing, you have to educate and reassure the parents that this condition is temporary. It will be resolved by the 5 years of age. So proper counseling of the parents is should be done. Then you have to treat the anemia. So iron therapy is effective in treatment of breath holding spell. Generally we see that the child is having the mild or moderate anemia whenever we find the case of breath holding spell. So always start the iron therapy if the child is having iron deficiency anemia. Rarely we can give the other drugs also if there is a frequent breath holding spells. Then we can try the paracetamol, which will help in the prevention of breath holding spells. So this drug is not routinely used. It is used whenever there is a recurrent breath holding spells. And rarely if the child is having severe spells, also having the syncope and anoxic seizures which are recurrent, prolonged, not responding to the other measures, means if you have make the proper counseling and you have started the iron therapy, still the child is having repeated attack. In counseling, you have to explain to the parents that these inciting events which lead to the breath holding spell should not be there. So whenever child is having the prolonged crying, they have to divert the attention of the child. So these sequence of the cyanosis, convulsion and syncope should not occur. If still it's there, then we can give the anticholinergic drug atropine sulfate 0.03 milligram per kilogram per day in 2 to 3 divided doses. Maximum daily dose 1.2 milligram can be given. This is not routinely used. I am again telling you paracetamol anticholinergic drugs are not routinely used in the breath holding spell. This will be used only when you find that within a month child is having 3-4 episodes, recurrent episodes. Only you have to reassure and give the iron therapy. In 99% cases, it is self-limiting condition and need not to give all these drugs. It is only indicated when recurrent. And sometime anti-epileptic drug therapy if it is recurrent. In this, we use the sodium valproate 10 to 40 mg per kg per day divided in BD doses. It's also very rarely used. So this is all about the breath holding spells. Now the another condition is infantile tremor syndrome. In this, the child will have the coarse tremor which disappears during sleep and it is present throughout the day and also associated with the anemia, megaloblastic anemia. When you will take the proper dietary history, you will find that the child is on goat milk which lead to the folic acid deficiency and megaloblastic anemia. Associated with the regression of motor and mental milestone. Child has achieved the milestone and later on regression occurs. And associated with the skin hyperpigmentation over the dorsal aspects of the hands, nail folds, feet, knee, ankle, buttock and axilla. So in this picture you can see the child is having the hyperpigmentation. And also in this video you can see the child is having the coarse tremor which is present in all four limbs and even the noding is also present. So this is the characteristic of the infantile tremor syndrome. Now the third condition is shuddering attack. It is precipitated by the fear, anger, frustration and embarrassment, and it will lead to the characterized by the stiffening and adduction of the knees and arm and flexion of the head, elbows, trunk and knee. And level of consciousness will remain normal in the shuddering attack and it lasts for few seconds or minute, and it improves spontaneously by the 10 years of age. Treatment, if it is recurrent, then propranolol 1 milligram per kilogram per day can be given for this condition. Another condition is night terror. It is common in 5 to 7 years age group and it is seen during the midnight when slow wave sleep stage 3 and 4 is present. In this picture, you can see the child wakes up in night and having the terrified look. In this condition, child may cry or scream or apparently terrified. And during this period, autonomic activity is also increased, and within few minutes, child will again sleep. There will be no recall of the event in morning hours. When you will ask to the child what happened in the night, child is not having any memory about that. And if it is recurrent, then we can give the treatment as a small dose of the diazepam for this condition. Another condition is pseudo seizure or hysterical convulsion reaction. You can make the diagnosis of SCR after excluding all other causes. It is common in adolescent age group between 10 to 18 years of age group, and during the hysterical convulsive reaction, child will have the bizarre, unusual posture, uncharacteristic movements, and child even verbalize during this time. And level of consciousness will remain normal, and if you request that to mimic the condition again, child can be able to mimic this attack again. So it is very characteristic. In seizure disorder, child is not having the any recall of the event, but for the pseudo seizure, if we request to the child what happened, what was uh, the what types of movement was there, child will again repeat the same thing when you will request for this thing. So we can easily differentiate the pseudo seizure from the true seizure. Again, to differentiate the pseudo seizure from true seizure, we have to keep all these points in mind. Child will talk during the seizure in pseudo seizure. There will be no drooling of saliva, no cyanosis, normal reaction to the pupil. There will be no loss of sphincter control, normal plantar response will be there, lack of post-ictal drowsiness, and child will not respond to anti-epileptic drug in pseudo seizure. So all these points should be keep in mind whenever you are thinking about the pseudo seizure. So all these are characteristic of pseudo seizure. Another condition which mimic the seizure are the syncopal attack. Syncope result from vasovagal stimulation, and it is precipitated by fear, pain, missing meal, excitement. An extended period of standing still in warm environment will lead to the syncope. So after painful stimuli or after prolonged standing in warm environment. So remember, this is the precipitating factor. And patient experience faintness, giddiness and visual blurring before syncope occur. And it is a brief episode with complete orientation following the event. So there will be no post-ictal phase. So child will be completely oriented once the event will be end. And rarely GTCS conversion can occur in syncopatic because of the anoxia. So it's a very rare thing which is associated with syncopatic, and because of this it is confusing that it is syncope or seizure disorder. And treatment is we have to avoid the precipitating factors. Maintenance of hydration, avoidance of standing still, rising slowly from the sitting, and avoid the fast. And salt supplementation 2 to 4 gram per day is required if the child is having repeated syncopatic. And we have to treat the anemia also, because it is also the precipitating factor. If the child is having mild moderate anemia, there will be recurrent syncopatic can occur. So to treat it, treat the anemia, give the salt supplementation. Another condition is basilar or hemiplegic migraine, which mimic the seizure. Its onset is between 5 to 7 years of age group, and in basilar migraine, vertigo, tinnitus, diplopia, blurred vision, scotoma, ataxia, and occipital headache will be present. And headache with motor aura of the weakness in hemiplegic migraine is present. So these two, basilar and hemiplegic migraine, are little bit confusing with the seizure. So whenever you find that it is not the seizure disorder or patient is having all the characteristic of basilar and hemiplegic migraine, you can start the prophylaxis for this. If frequency of attack is more than 2 per month, then we can start the treatment for the migraine. Verapamil, acetazolamide and lamotrigine are used to prevent the attack. So these three drugs are very effective for the basilar and hemiplegic migraine. Another condition which mimic the seizure are jitteriness. In this, the movements are stimulus sensitive and it appears during the active state, during crying, and disappear on passive flexion. Details of the jitteriness I have already uploaded in neonatal seizure. So if you want to see the video and you want to learn about the details of jitteriness, you can see this my video of neonatal seizure. So it is stimulus sensitive and it's appear during the crying time and it disappear on passive flexion. Not jerky, no abnormal eye movements will be there. Another condition is tics. In this, the rapid stereotypic movements around the face, neck and shoulder will be there. And it lasts less than a second and repetitive over the several minutes. And it is precipitated by the excitement and emotional stress and can be stopped. If we motivate the child can stop these type of movements, tics. And sometimes tics are confused with the simple partial seizure. So whenever you find that the child is having the some rapid stereotypic movements, then you have to take the detailed history, and if you want to differentiate it from the tic, you will find that tics can be briefly suppressed but partial seizure cannot be controlled. If you ask the child stop this movement, then child will be able to stop it if it is tics. If child is not able to stop, child is not able to decrease the frequency, that means it is the partial seizure, not the tics. And to differentiate the tics from the SPS, and we can go for the EEG also. In EEG, you will find that the spikes and sharp waves or multifocal spikes pattern is present in the simple partial seizure, while EEG will be normal in the tics. So if you are still not able to differentiate tics from the SPS, you can go for the EEG. Last and the common condition is benign paroxysmal vertigo of childhood. In this, the brief episodes of vertigo that is often accompanied by the postural imbalance, and child will have the nystagmus with this. And also child will have the diaphoresis, nausea, vomiting. Rarely tinnitus is also there. And it usually subsides by the 6 years of age. It is a benign condition. And if you want to confirm it, you can go for the calorie testing. And in this, the abnormal vestibular function will be present. And for the treatment, for the acute attack, we can give the diphenhydramine 5 mg per kg per day. And for prevention, we can give the cyproheptadine if the frequent attacks are present. So these all are the 10 conditions which are common. I told you the details of all these conditions. Now for the diagnosis of seizure disorder, first you have to take the proper history about the seizure type, about the duration of seizure, frequency of the seizure, then any precipitating factor is present, history of aura, automatism and post-ictal phenomena. All these things you have to ask. Then only you will be able to make the diagnosis. Then physical examination is very important, as in neurocutaneous syndrome you will find that the child is having the abnormal physical examination with the convulsion. So always give the time for the physical examination. Then ultimately neurological examination should be done in detail. So before investigation, take the proper history. Then in investigation, go for the blood investigation and CSF examination if it is indicated. So in blood investigation, first thing blood sugar should be measured, then complete blood count should be sent, as the hypoglycemia is associated with the conversion. So we have to rule out the hypoglycemia before further investigations. Then you have to go for the complete blood count to rule out the any infection, because sometimes patient is having the meningitis or encephalitis, you have to rule out. Then go for the serum calcium and serum electrolyte, as hypocalcemia is a cause of the seizures, and electrolytes, because hypo and hypernatremia both can lead to the seizure. Then go for the renal function and liver function test. So to rule out the patient is having any renal disease or liver disease. And then you have to go for the serum ammonia. If all these parameters are normal and you are suspecting that patient may have the uh, hyperammonemia due to some metabolic disorder or due to liver disorder. So rule out this condition by serum ammonia test. If all these parameters are little bit doubtful and you are suspecting the metabolic disorder, then you can go for the full metabolic workup, especially in drug resistant epilepsy. You have started the two anti-epileptic drug and patient is not responding. Full dose and appropriate anti-epileptic drug, at least two drugs, has already started and you are suspecting the metabolic disorder, then go for the full metabolic workup, in which you have to go for the ABG, tandem mass spectrometry, enzyme level, gene testing. All these should be done, whatever you are suspecting. In CSF examination, if the patient is having the fever with the conversion and patient is not fit into the category of febrile conversion, I have already told you the details of febrile conversion, how to differentiate the febrile conversion from the meningitis encephalitis. If you find that child is not fit into the category of febrile conversion, and then you have to perform the lumbar puncture to rule out the pyogenic meningitis, tubercular meningitis, viral encephalitis. So CSF examination is indicated only when you are suspecting the infection, or sometime if you are suspecting metabolic disorder also. In this condition also we can go for the lumbar puncture for CSF parameters for the metabolic disorders. Now the another investigation, you have to go for the electroencephalography and neuroimages. So EEG should be performed with the sleep deprivation. Whenever you want to perform the EEG, you have to perform after 6 to 8 hours of sleep deprivation. Then ambulatory EEG can also be performed. Inpatient video EEG can also be performed. These two types of ambulatory and inpatient video EEG is indicated whenever you find that patient is drug resistant, not responding to the anti-epileptic drug. And in this condition, you have to go for the ambulatory and inpatient video EEG. In epilepsy, In epilepsy, epileptiform discharge in form of spikes, sharp wave, either it may be focal or generalized. Example, hips arrhythmic EEG pattern is seen in the tuberous sclerosis. 3 Hz spike and slow wave discharge is seen in the typical absence seizure. If it is less than 2 or more than 3 spike and slow wave, then it can be seen in atypical absence seizure. So EEG is very helpful to differentiate the type of seizure. Now the neuroimaging is indicated whenever you think that some focal seizures are there, you are suspecting some ixodes, or if you suspecting the congenital malformation. So in this we can go for the USG cranium, we can go for the CT brain, we can go for the MRI brain. If the age group is infant, or especially USG cranium is helpful in newborn period, and CT brain when you are suspecting some infarct, then go for this, and MRI brain for some brain abscess or some ixodes, you can go for the MRI brain. So in this picture you can see the child is having the large cavity which is connected with the lateral ventricles. So this large cavity is visible in the USG cranium in a newborn who is having the brain abscess, single large brain abscess which is connected to the ventricle. MRI brain is indicated for the intracranial space occupying lesion, some congenital cortical malformation. So in this picture, you can see the child is suffering from tuberculoma. So this is the tuberculoma and child was having the focal seizure because of this. So MRI brain is to identify the ixole, congenital cortical malformation, example lysencephaly, schizencephaly. Some calcification can be seen, myelination disease, Adams and leukodystrophy, stroke, hemorrhage, thrombosis can be visible in MRI brain. In this picture, you can see the child is having multiple brain abscess are there. So these are the abscess cavity. Multiple brain abscess cavity is present in a newborn, which is visible in MRI brain. So thank you so much for listening. If you are having any query regarding this topic, you can put into the comment box. And the third part, treatment of seizure or epilepsy, I will tell you in third video of this seizure disorder video series. Thank you so much.